Welcome, guys, to another episode, another exciting episode of Zebraman, also known as the People's Podcast. We are in Katlehong. We're visiting a local businessman, Bongani Mabuza. Bongani, welcome to the show.
No, thank you. Thank you for the opportunity.
Yeah, man. The 2024 election results are out, man. What's your take so far in what has transpired within the political space in South Africa in 2024?
I think we're moving into an interesting South Africa, an interesting space where more voices are added onto the political scene. And hopefully that translates into people's voices being heard, um, more entrepreneurial opportunities for our young people, more less bureaucracy, less red tape, more understanding of what the people want. So I'm really excited about the future that lies ahead for the country. And as long as there's political stability, security in the country, I think we shouldn't panic too much. We should really embrace the changes that will come with the new voices in the political space.
As a businessman, I want you to bring you in because business and democracy. I want you to enlighten me on that because as a businessman, I'm sure you've seen that there was serious money
It was spent.
spent, I think, in the billions
Yeah.
given to parties. What's your take on that? Because in my view, democracy, and then on the other side, there's money, which means this money could mean that certain people's views have been swayed to other corners so that they can pursue other people's interests. What's your take in the money that's been spent, the billions that's been spent to sponsor parties?
I think it's interesting the fact that we are now in a transparent world where, you know, political parties have to declare where their money comes from. It's interesting. It's coming from interesting spaces where you are hearing things like, the mining companies are sponsoring political parties. The cigarette
Yes.
companies are sponsoring political parties. The corporates, the banks are sponsoring political parties. So it's very interesting that we have been so ignorant as a people for so long to think that the agenda that we put on the table is what was being pushed, because whoever funds you controls you. So we should really be careful about where the money is coming from. So it's interesting that we've gone into that space where there needs to be transparency, and that I think has played a big role in how the outcome happened, because in previous years we didn't ask the questions. We didn't ask where the money was coming from. Yes, I understand politics is an expensive game. Yes, the parties needed to spend money to be visible, to get their messages across, but at what cost? That is the question that the people had to ask themselves. And do we trust the messaging? Is the messaging pushing a particular agenda, or does it serve the people? So the question of money in politics has really brought about perspective for the voter to say, hey, where is this money coming from, and what does it want from my party? What does it want from from my leaders? So it's really an interesting time, but I mean, understandably so. It's a game of money, and yeah, as long as it doesn't compromise the principles, the values of the country, as long as it doesn't compromise the people, the sovereignty of the country, then I don't mind it. But let us be sovereign and not be controlled by the money.
Speaking of the big monies and the big checks, a man who receives big bucks as was campaigning to be the ANC president, President Cyril Ramaphosa, As seen as somebody who's the first president in the history of the ANC to take it under. What are your thoughts on that?
Uh, I think it's the will of the people. I don't even think it's about the man. I think it's about the 30 years, over 30 years, what has been the people's experience. You know, you have a lot of voter apathy where people stay away from voting. Why? That's the question we need to be asking. A lot of young people didn't vote in this election, and those that did vote, they voted against, the ruling party. So it's there to say yes, there's an opportunity to do things better. Maybe that's what the voter was saying this time around, to say, look, we appreciate that you brought us this far. Uh, However, you know, don't be comfortable. And I think it's a good space to, for politicians to be in. Politicians should never be comfortable. They should never be comfortable about how things are. And I think a lot of them were very comfortable in their seats. And this election has definitely shook things up, and hopefully for the better, for this country.
I think obviously we all knew that all eyes would be on the ANC. But one person who really shook things up is none other than former President Jacob Zuma. Nobody saw him coming, man. He just arrived.
Mm, you know, I'm surprised that people are surprised. I don't think that it should have came as a surprise. The introduction of all the many new parties. I think the signs were there over the years that there might be something. There might be a breakaway from the ruling party. There might be something new, in the new players in the political space. So I personally was not surprised, and the impact that the new parties made on the existing parties, uh, I think it's a reflection of the country, that the people of this country are looking for something, are looking for alternative, platforms or parties to that can carry their message. So this, I think, is a trend that is going to continue. We're going to see more and more formations emerging going into the future that are going to just change the face of politics. I think the liberation brands, unless they innovate and start, acknowledging the young people, the poor people of this country, you're always going to see new parties emerging. So I think this is a trend that the country is going into. We're going into a future of coalitions. We're going to see more parties having to work with each other, where different voices are represented. And I think it's something that is exciting. I know, we would all love to stick to one brand and hope that it delivers our message. But we know we are different as a country. We know we are not the same as our neighbor. We don't share the same ideas. We don't share the same taste in even in entertainment. People will be watching different channels for a reason, because we enjoy different things. Music, we enjoy different things, and equally with politics, there there's a need for variety, and I think it has been lacking in our politics. And what has happened, hopefully, brings that variety of voices in parliament and in the country for people to, to start, hearing something different, because we've been hearing the same thing for 30 years.
We touch on the money. I think you explained it so well. But now I want to look into the democratic system. Is it really, I mean, it's 30 years now, and we're now looking forward perhaps to another 30 years, to another 100 years. Is the system, the democratic, the elections and everything, really still caters to the masses? Or is it a way of those who want to be elected to be in power and for them to also look at their interest? Have the people really been lifted out of poverty, out of all the challenges that they're facing? Or maybe is it time that we can look into the system to say, is this the system that's going to take the country to the next level? That's going to look at the needs of the masses?
Look, I mean, we can't discount where we come from as a country. One can't say that it was better under apartheid than it is now. It's way better. There are more opportunities. There are more things that the masses, the majority of this country have been able to do and pursue. So in that aspect, the system has really benefited a lot of people. However, like in business, there's always a need, to grow. And I think our politics need to mature and grow into a space where we reflect on our mistakes, we reflect on what we've done right and what we still need to do as a country, and really start coming up with ideas for the future. So if it means that we amend certain things in our constitution, if it means that we amend certain things that can be pro poor, pro majority, pro lifting people out of unemployment and dire situations that our people find themselves in, then maybe we should look at that. So definitely, I think there is room to make changes, and in some spaces, even drastic changes that can lift our people out of poverty.
Thank you so much, my brother. We've come to the end of today's episode. Thank you so much for availing yourself and for sharing your information that you have on the subject of politics and business. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thanks, man.